Well, welcome. This is welcome to the testhim podcast. Here we are, chatting sperm, talking fertility. How are you guys?
We're really good, I think.
Yeah, we think.
Yeah.
Amazing, mate. Always.
Yeah.
Always. It's a special occasion getting the three of us together.
Oh.
We all live in different counties, so it's nice when we actually get together and talk fertility, I suppose.
It is good, isn't it? Yeah. And well, it's funny you should say that we all get together, because I thought in this episode it'd be really good for us just to kind of tell the backstory to testhim. You know, how did it come about? You know, how do you end up, developing and starting a company that's about male fertility testing? And three men from very different backgrounds, different counties, very different lives, but we've all got the same mission, we've all got the same dream. But how on earth? I mean, we chuckle to ourselves, don't we? It's like, how on earth has this happened? But I think it'd just be really nice for people to understand what's behind all of this and why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it is a mega story. In fairness,
And it's a bit mad as well, actually, how it all came about as well, doesn't it? So in terms of the connections that we both all had independently, and then how it's all sort of sprung together.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I think really we should just dive straight in to the point we first met, and then rewind a little bit of what got us to that point, and then perhaps we can talk a little bit about how testhim was a thing.
Conceived almost.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going for puns, are we? Okay,
Puns.
excellent.
Yeah.
We need a little
few of
tally.
those.
Yeah.
There might be a few of those in today's.
Yeah, just a little note for the listeners. We often have all sorts of weird and wonderful puns, but typically fall back to fertility. So just listen out from give us a tweet if you know if you
spot
hear
them.
Yeah.
So when did it all start? Well, it was summer 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, but we had known each other since April 2020, March 2020. I say we. I'm looking at Toby. If you're listening to this, you don't know who I'm talking to. Toby and we met in March 2020.
Yeah.
We were introduced by Fertility Network UK because of what you were already doing in the space with your Racing for Fertility campaign, and I'd been quite vocal about male fertility as well. So
yeah, I remember chatting to the lovely Gwenda Burns at the charity. What an amazing role model she is in the space of fertility. I remember chatting to her kind of, she said to me one afternoon, yeah, have you met Ian Stones yet? Like, I think it'd be good for you two to connect. And I was like, who's he? Quickly Googling, just while I was chatting away to her. And I was like, okay, he's
what came up?
some cool stuff. That's for another episode. I need a whole episode. And I remember sort of going, it'd be a really good chat to him, because I think at the time I was talking about there's just so like little effort being made around male fertility. I was kind of just starting out of like making a bit of a noise and kind of wanted to go public just to try and help people out. And we met via Zoom, because we're still in this weird pandemic world where we just didn't meet face to face for.
Only just started, hadn't it? Did we actually meet by Zoom, or was it a phone call?
I think a phone call initially.
Yeah.
And then followed by Zoom, and it was nice to see your face.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, but of course, the counter to that was I got an email from somebody at the charity. It wasn't from Gwenda, it was somebody else who's moved on now.
Right.
But I'd done a webinar for the charity in January or December, I think it was, about male fertility and how important it was that men got help.
Yeah.
So I got an email, landed in my inbox saying, would you be interested in hosting a male fertility support group with Toby Trice? And I was like, who's Toby Trice? So I googled Toby Trice. I can't remember what came up, to be fair.
Gosh, I'd hate to think.
But that was it, wasn't it? We were flung together
to
set up this male fertility support group, which sounded like quite a good idea, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So I suppose it's good just to recap kind of what got us to that point, really. If I look back at kind of how I got involved with the charity, because really the charity has been kind of the core of getting all of us guys together. So just for context, I was going through a really difficult time as a fertility patient, couple of miscarriages, rounds of IVF, really not enjoying any of it, as you can imagine. It's very difficult. And I sought to the charity mainly for kind of support and just trying to like clear my headspace, and had some counselling with them. So I'm here because I'm a patient, or I was a patient, and I was going through the journey of fertility. I hate the word journey of fertility, but that's exactly where
challenge of the journey, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of how I met Gwenda in the charity. Like where did you start? Where was your kind of connection to?
Wow, yeah, blimey. So my background, my training was Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and so I qualified in 2007. And very shortly after I qualified, I heard about a an initiative that Zeta West was developing, and anyone who is in the fertility world and gone through treatment, chances are they've heard of Zeta West, or they've bought some of her supplements, or looked at her Instagram page, whatever it is. But she was setting up this kind of advanced training for acupuncturists who were treating fertility. So I jumped at the opportunity. I was a new graduate. I kind of was a fledgling practitioner. I thought, this sounds great. So that's what I did, and that naturally led me to then seeing more and more couples that were going through fertility treatment. So my practice developed over the years, where I was seeing predominantly women that were going through IVF treatment. And I then had a bit of a light bulb moment. It was actually in a meeting with some other acupuncturists, and we were talking about sperm health, and I was the only bloke in the room. So every single time they said the word sperm, they all looked at me, and I was kind of sat in this chair on my own. It's like, yep, I'm the one who's got some. And I was just like, hang on a minute. Nobody's really looking after the men.
No.
I think there's something in this. I think we need to look into this. So I started doing a bit more research, did a bit of reading, and I actually started interviewing my patients' husbands or partner who, their male counterpart. And I heard the same message time and time again. It's the message I've heard from both of you and all the guys on the support group. They're not supported. They don't know anything about advanced testing. They feel like the spare part. They're just a sperm donor. They worry about the money. And I was like, wow, okay, this is a thing. So became more vocal about it, started talking in different places about it. I went on a thing called Brighton Inspiring Talks to talk about it.
Nice.
This was literally the week we were about to lock down.
Yeah.
And because I then did some bits with the charity about it, that's what led me to get in touch with you. So I came from a clinician's point of view, I suppose, or a practitioner's point of view, not clinician, a practitioner's point of view of having seen a lot of couples go through it and realising that there was this almighty chasm of male fertility support. So I guess, then we set up the support group, and then you kind of fast forward a year and we got through to 2021, wasn't it?
Yep.
So mine and Toby's bromance had fully developed by then.
It was in full swing.
It was in full swing.
Digitally though, still digitally. I hadn't actually met you at this point.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's
very.
No, when did you do your?
It was in the summer of 2021.
Was it?
Yeah.
Ah.
No, it wouldn't. No, sorry, it wouldn't have been. No, it was the end of 2020, wasn't it? So it was. I did meet you in 2020.
Yeah.
It was because we did have easing of lockdown.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a quick note. The first time I met you in the flesh, I handed a pot of my semen to you.
Yes.
Very first thing that we ever transacted.
I mean, that's it. That's a friendship sealed forever, isn't it? Really.
That was a true bromance. That's just living long.
Yeah.
Nice and warm, I hope.
It was.
It was really warm, actually. I won't tell you where it was kept, but it was very warm.
That's it. So guys out there that are doing their semen samples and feeling quite embarrassed, imagine giving what is your latest friend,
newest friend
that you're meeting for the very first time.
Yeah.
Hey mate, here's a pot of semen. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Are you good?
Loved it. Yeah. I've completely lost the train of thought now. But anyway, so that was our bromance, wasn't it? And of course, going along here, so we are going to bring you in at some point, Michael.
No, it's fine. No, it's really fun just listening back to the story about how you both met, the bromance.
Yeah, the bromance. The whole thing that's going on alongside here is, of course, the Racing for Fertility campaign.
Yeah.
This is how we bring you in, Michael.
This is it. Yeah.
So, Michael, what was your kind of backstory to getting involved in male fertility?
Mine's been a long journey, I think, a bit longer than most people's, in the fact that I was biomedical scientist at heart, but I've had a wide career in the pharmaceutical industry, and one of the large companies I used to work with was heavily involved with the fertility business. They're probably the biggest company in the world, actually, that deals with fertility, but mainly female fertility. And I left them probably about 12 years ago, and but during that time, I've had my own fertility issues. I was born with undescended testes that held problems in trying to conceive, and ultimately I'd gone through a similar type of process where because it was male factor, actually ICSI was probably the way to go and go through that thing, which was unsuccessful for us. So as a science nerd and being in the pharmaceutical industry, I've become that patient advocate and patient experienced person, and I've gone out and sought the relationships with all the top academics and physicians that deal with male fertility, to the point now which I pretty much well know most major figures around the world in andrology, and actually have now a company with one of the leading andrologists in the world doing a lot of research and development. So as a business, we've now got half of my business is just dealing with male fertility and male fertility diagnostics, testing and treatments. But yeah, it's interesting how I got involved through the charity as well, because we've been a great advocate and gold sponsor of Fertility Network UK for approximately 5-6 years or something like that, and really support all the activities that they do in trying to raise awareness, education, and trying to make sure that patients are equally heard, and that there are options available to those patients. So I got introduced to the charity in a different way, but from a sponsorship type of way, in order to try and raise awareness of these latest treatments that come through.
So it's interesting, isn't it? So your fertility journey, oh, so that bloody word again, isn't it? It's just, we'll have to do a disclaimer, sorry for that crappy term, but it was your experience and your scientific background that, it's so funny, isn't it? It's led us all in we've all come from a different background, but we've taken a slightly different angle, in that, for you, Michael, it was the scientific stuff that you realised, okay, I can make a difference here with the testing. Toby, you, it's like, okay, let's raise awareness, let's get people educated. And then for me, it was about, probably similar to you, I suppose, Toby, it's awareness, education, just making sure guys are getting the right support. But that's interesting that you've got that scientific line.
I think I realised through the challenges I was going through that there was just a complete lack of knowledge, and the testing that was available in the clinics was actually poor and substandard, which I knew from a science point of view was out there, but it just wasn't being used. So it's shocking sometimes in my mind, that we're still living in a world where we have all the knowledge, but nobody uses it. So that's the thing that I want to sort of bring to the table is some of the clinical research, some of the clinical diagnostics, and bring them to the forefront so that we've got better options and better treatments.
So then how did you and Toby meet? Because that's the other part of the equation, isn't it?
By Gwenda again, I think.
Was it Gwenda?
Yeah, Gwenda's the networking wizard.
Link,
and we're going to get her on here at some point.
We've got to get Gwenda down here
to
have a little chat about Fertility Network UK.
Can you remember that point then, Toby?
Yeah, really vividly. I remember actually chatting to Gwenda and looking ahead of my Racing for Fertility campaign and saying, Gwenda, I really want to work with companies that are really passionate about fertility. Not necessarily fertility treatment companies, but maybe nationwide brands that just want to make a difference. And I need to get sponsorship. So that's kind of my conversation with Gwenda. And I remember Gwenda going to me, you need to speak to Michael. Because Michael is a really good cookie and he's doing some really cool stuff. And he's got a good company that might be able to afford to with what you're doing. And I was like, okay, it'll be good to chat to Michael. And I remember Gwenda putting us in an email chain. And at the time, actually, I was talking to various other companies, supplement companies and bits and pieces about some sponsorship and opportunity. But I kind of wanted to make sure that when Racing for Fertility became its thing, I wanted companies on board that were of the same kind of mindset as I was, and not just become a sponsor. I wanted them to become something bigger, and actually we're all part of the same mission. So Gwenda just said that you would be a really good match because you're like that. And I remember having a chat with you, and straight away it was like I knew you,
wasn't it?
Yeah, same with you, Ian. It was like I just knew you, and we had a really long chat over Zoom, I think it was, wasn't it? And talking about my campaign, what you're doing, and I was just like in awe of you and the people that you were mentioning, and it was so refreshing because at the time, if I think back to that moment, I hadn't been fully diagnosed at that point. I don't think I was kind of just at the point where I knew there might have been an issue. So I was actually there for two parts really, because obviously you had so much information that you could sort of help me out with, and the friendship started.
When was this conversation?
This must have been January 2021, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe a touch before, maybe in the December of 2020.
I think it was around that time, wasn't it? It was certainly lockdown, and I remember having that conversation, and just having a chat about some of the things that you might want to think about, and the physicians that may be about, and more importantly, the test that you should have had by then, which was clear hadn't really been resolved quite quite acutely. So and then we had a common physician, which I probably won't say right now, but we had a common physician. He's a legend. Just talking through some of the things that he may want to explore and try and identify what was going on. And then it was all like a light bulb going like, I think a few months later we were going like, yes, that's it, and I'm going to get it repaired.
Okay, get sorted, yeah.
And just like, oh my goodness, that so there is some insight out there that can be helpful.
And then you joined my campaign in 2021.
I did, yeah. You sort of like said, oh, can I send you a brochure? And I went, oh, okay.
All right.
This is going to cost me.
So we're having a conversation about, do you like motor racing? I went, yeah, I used to follow Formula One, for quite a few years and things like that, like to get around the paddock and Silverstone and various other bits and pieces. So he said, oh, you should have a look at what we're doing. So I said, oh, I can have a look. And I said, well, I probably can't afford that much. But, it was sort of like, let's give you a bit of a point. But it'd be great to come down and see what you're doing and see what the team are doing. And, and I think it started from there. So I said, yeah, okay, here's a bit of dosh, just to help you with your campaign. And don't think we've ever looked back, have we, Suzanne?
We absolutely haven't. It's exploded since then.
Well, that was May 2021, wasn't it? Because that was Brands Hatch. Because that was then the first time.
That was the first time the three of us were
in the same place. I mean, I remember being so excited that weekend just to come and see you race.
It was awesome
that was incredible.
It was awesome, yeah, because that was the first time that we actually met at that.
But we didn't really. Well, we did inevitably talk probably a lot of fertility stuff, but we didn't really talk much beyond. Testhim wasn't a thing then.
No,
we hadn't talked about
even
business
conceived
together.
Then, was it?
No. It was later that summer, maybe June, July time. I had a conversation with Toby because I had, in my mind, had this vision that I wanted to open a dedicated male fertility clinic. That's right. I knew about all this testing. I knew that there was more for men. I was like, right, how do I do this? Mm-hmm. So I phoned Toby up. Said, look, I've got this idea. Actually, I think it was just I chucked into another conversation about something.
We were chatting.
We were just chinwagging.
I think I remember quite vividly, actually, to be fair, that kind of conversation happened where obviously the support group was pretty well established at that point. Was speaking to a lot of guys through my Instagram account, privately, whatever. I was getting lots of messages. What do I do? And I don't know. I'm not a professional in this space, and I was getting absolutely like really fed up hearing guys getting treated a bit rubbish, similar to the frustrations that I had going through the fertility treatment at the time that I'd gone through. And I remember just chatting to you about it, like, we need to do something because this is just not good enough, is it? This is just like average.
So we chatted about it. It was like, how do we do this? And who do we talk to? And maybe we should do this and maybe speak to these people. So we had a couple of conversations. And then you were like, we probably ought to talk to Michael. And that was it then, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I think when the three of us got together and said, oh, this is the ideas, I think it was you, Ian, and said, oh, I'd love to do this sort of clinic thing. And, listening to all the stories that you'd had by then on the infertility support group, you're thinking, oh my goodness, so many people are in exactly the same boat, don't know where to go, haven't got any support, and searching really for answers of what to do next. And I think it was just a collection of minds going like, oh my goodness, I think there is something here.
Yeah, it's like a light bulb.
We didn't know what it was going to look like at that point at all, but I think we knew that we could do something which is going to be quite special. Yeah,
and I think that's the key thing with what testhim eventually became, and we'll get to kind of why we call it testhim, but we just was so like, all three of us had our own kind of story leading up to that point where we've sort of bonded. We've created this lovely friendship that, because we just so well, like-minded, but we all had that similar frustration that like more needs to be done because, how many more men are we going to speak to that they're just a rabbit in a headlights getting thrown to gynecologists that's not even the right people that they need to see, and hearing stories of people that have, missed their opportunity of having their own baby, and those sort of things really like fired me up to go, we've got to make this change. And I think that's where it started, really.
Well, I think it was at that time I joined the group, didn't I? I was a lot later than you guys had set it up. And, for me, it was fascinating just to listen to some of the stories. And, you're putting your head in your hands and going like, not again, not again,
it's
not
really
again.
sad,
And then similar questions month after month were coming up and you're going like, my goodness, we're going back a step to go forward a step to help people. And then, and it was just sort of like, oh my goodness, there's so many common questions out here that actually need to be answered and put into one place that is actually going to help people moving forward.
It was too big to ignore, wasn't it? You look at it and you're like, this just doesn't make sense. How is it that female fertility is getting all of this, yet the men are getting nothing, and we're hearing these same problems and the same stories and the heartache, and it's like, why wouldn't you do something about this? Why and nobody was.
No,
so it's
you've
like,
got to break the cycle, haven't you?
Yeah.
Break
so it's
the
like,
cycle.
right, well, we've got to do it then.
That's a pun. That's got to be a pun. That
Break
one.
the
Break the cycle. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. Hey.
Well spotted, that man.
So they come out all sorts of angles, don't they?
I know.
Circles and things like that. So yeah.
So yeah, that was it. So then we met. It's like September, I think it was, that year, 2021, and started thrashing out some ideas, didn't we? And and at some point we then had to develop a brand and an identity, and
Which seems mad, doesn't it? It does seem really mad what this has become, because we've got this like real strong, passionate vision that we want to do and change for the better for fertility, and ultimately get more couples have families, right? That's the goal, isn't it? And testhim.
Yeah, we started drawing it out, didn't we? We put all sorts of ideas on the table and sort of like saying, what does that mean? What's the most important bit here? What is a priority? And then we're going like, well, how do you bring this together? And and I've done a lot of marketing in the past, brand marketing and things. And I said, right, actually, we need to think about it structurally. And then, that actually gives us a vision, it gives us a mission, and then we've got a storyboard to start, building the foundation from there on in, isn't it? So,
And of course, the foundation really is probably the questionnaire, the portal and the questionnaire. That was, you were already working on that, weren't you?
Yeah. So, we were used to doing quite a number of like risk assessments, I suppose, or health assessments. And there are quite a number of validated risk assessments out there, but none of them were really being used routinely, and certainly not robustly either put together. So one of the chaps that works with me, Professor Ralph Henkel, sort of helped us actually saying, what are the most important questions that we need to answer, and how can we put levels of importance on those, and then ultimately say, can we tease some of those out that actually is going to have an impact on fertility? So we've done quite a bit of work already, and I think that was the sort of conception behind, actually, if we got everybody to fill this in. And
Conception. Yep.
Conception.
I didn't spot that one. Into the button.
I probably do it all the time. So, so we sort of said, right, let's put it together in a portal that it makes it so much easier. And I remember speaking to a very good physician, which we know very well, and he said, if you're going to do it this way, then don't do what other companies have done and make it a chargeable fee. Don't do that. He said, make sure that it's accessible and it's suitable for every patient type, whether they're an NHS patient or a private patient. It's got to be common between everybody that's there. And that's a challenge, because that costs a lot of money to do that.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's where testhim really started, wasn't it? Because, with testhim, we are, focusing on testing the man, because we feel that men aren't tested the same as women are, and but we're tackling this together, tackling fertility together is our tagline, and it's because what we want to do is we want to get that really accessible early doors, checking things out right through to hopefully a conception, and we want to be able to facilitate everything in between, so that together with our partners we can be fully informed of what is the right treatment, which is the best way to go, getting people put in front of the right people so that they can give themselves the best possible chance, isn't it? And the portal really is the heart of that, because something that's quite interesting with the portal, and coming from a patient side, from my side, and seeing the portal kind of being built, was like all of these questions that can quite seem pretty like basic normal questions, and they can seem sort of like, are these relevant? Does this make a difference? But actually, there's so much there that really does. Like, for example, do you sit down all day? Like, what's that got to do with fertility?
Yeah, and what do you do for a day job, Toby?
I'm a train driver and a racing driver for a train job. So sit in a seat.
How long are you sitting in a seat all day?
A long time.
Yeah.
So, and so all these sort of elements is really going down to the absolute right from the fundamentals of kind of just male health, because all these things don't just affect fertility; it affects our health, right?
Yeah, quite.
It's a super exciting mission what we're doing, isn't it? It's so cool.
Well, we're trying to get to the root cause, aren't we? Really, we're not trying to bypass and just treat, the cause of a fertility issue.
Yeah.
It's actually, let's identify the root cause and figure out, is there a way in which we can correct that root cause? And it could be minor things. It could be just things like, don't take a hot bath too often, or jacuzzis and things like that. And there's lots of common things which don't cost anything other than a bit of common sense. But if you're not aware of some of the confounding issues, you won't really think about trying to modify your own health.
And I think that's one of the big things. So within the questionnaire we've got questions like you say, is this really relevant? The fact that I sit down all day, or the fact that I only eat 2 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, and the fact I've had mumps and all this, that and the other. I think there's a lot of I was going to say fake news. It's like, that's just a horrible Trump term, isn't it?
Fake news.
Fake
news. Listen to the fake news here.
But guys just have to. They go to Google or another search engine to find information, or they get a lot of information from their partner, and they're just like, oh, I'm just being nagged to not drink alcohol. I'm being nagged to get off my bike, and there's been a lack of consistent, reliable information available to men for forever, really. Yeah. And I think what that questionnaire does, because it's been devised by Professor Ralph Henkel and you, Michael, against validated, legitimate research. These questions are entirely relevant and important. They're not random questions. We're not just curious how many. We're not just curious about
how many carrots you eat a week.
How many carrots you eat, or what colour your underpants are. Although we don't ask what colour, but what type of underpants you wear.
What colour are you wearing today?
Don't know. Now you've thrown me. But so it is a validated, relevant questionnaire. Yeah. So it at least gives men somewhere to go for free to actually suss out for sure what's right and what's wrong, and
it's about looking at the flags, isn't it? We've got a few red flags in there, so a few individual ones might not make a difference, but actually if you add them up over a series of different questions, then you start getting alarm bells going and going like, actually this could be affecting my fertility health, not only general health but fertility health, and I've really got to think about that and think about mitigating options that are available. So
and I think if you look at my kind of journey and take me as a kind of testimonial to the portal, really, a lot of the questions that are in the portal really would have flagged up something quite serious for me to look at. I had a lump on my testicle. I used to get achy nuts. They felt quite heavy and dull. I sit down a lot. At the time, I had not particularly a great diet. And there was other factors there that was like, okay, well, should you see a urologist? Should I go and see somebody? And should I get an additional test done to a basis semen analysis? And I found that out 5.5 years into my fertility program, which is bonkers, because this condition I had been around since my early 20s that I can remember. I've had that for a long time. So.
And that's it, isn't it? The portal gives you those recommendations instantly, there and then. They're free. You can download them. It tells you.
Share them with a healthcare professional if you want to. Yeah,
tells you need to eat more carrots. Yeah, tells you need to change your underwear.
Still water rather than fizzy water.
Exactly. Yeah, cut down your coffee, cut down your alcohol. But they're really important steps. But importantly, like you said, Michael, there's red flags in there. Yeah. And I think that's the other really important part of what we're doing here with testhim is, we're raising awareness, we're getting men educated, we want to get them the right tests, but also we want to get them the right support. And that support is getting them in front of the right medical professional. Correct. And that's the other really key part about what we're doing, is actually helping men on that pathway through to a urologist or an andrologist, because men don't know about this stuff.
Yeah, no. Especially if those red flags are red flags, they definitely need a little bit more support than generally going through a GP or even a fertility clinic. The fertility clinic may well be the wrong place if you've got all these red flags that haven't been identified beforehand.
Yeah.
So, kind of where are we going? So we're just coming to the end of 2022. It's been the first year of the Porsche Cayman Sprint Challenge. With the testhim Porsche. I mean, it's been a big year for us. It's been a big foundation year.
Awesome this year.
What's coming next for testhim, do we think?
Well, I think ultimately global change for male fertility.
Global domination.
Well, if you want to call it that. I think that's the thing for me is how many men globally are currently suffering in silence, don't know where to go, have no idea if they're an issue in their fertility journey.
I think we've got it on our banner, 60 million.
There you go.
7% of the population.
So I'm one of the first candidates done.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah.
Well, we're certainly raising the voice for racing for fertility as well, because
Totally.
next season is going to be an awesome season, isn't it? So,
Can't wait for.
what does the coverage look like for what
Yeah.
race season's going to look like?
2023 race season is live on ITV4, which is mega exciting because we can start getting our campaign in front of the home viewers of motorsport, which is where it's at.
And millions per weekend.
Millions per weekend.
Yeah.
So we're starting there.
And this is it. You know, we want to have fun on the way, don't we? But we've got a very serious mission. And that mission is to change the world of male fertility support and testing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where we're going. We're doing it with the racing car. We're doing it with smiles on our face.
Yeah.
Supporting FN UK on the way and just having a good time.
Yeah,
and helping men.
And at the same time, we're lightening up the topic, right? We don't want people to feel embarrassed about male factor fertility issues. We want people to feel empowered to be able to go to us, to friends, to colleagues, whatever, to be able to talk about fertility. Let's just stop being embarrassed about talking about balls and sperm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought of another one. We should be on top gear, shouldn't we? So, as a company, we've got all the gear, and you're a racing driver. It's a perfect mix. We should be on top gear. We should get on there as well.
That's a good challenge.
Not the way they treat cars.
Well, this is true. But have you seen how Toby treats the car?
Hey, I look after my race cars.
He does.
Other drivers.
Yeah, if the other driver's the problem.
In fairness,
Yeah, the recording of this podcast, my car's currently in the body shop, isn't it? Unfortunately,
Well, it's only minor,
I know.
minor bruises.
but it's a beautiful Porsche.
Yeah, it is. I know.
Cool. It's been great chatting today.
Yeah,
I think we'll probably wrap it up there, but I think we've got hopefully you've got the flavour of testhim, why this is so important to us and where we've come from to do it. Go on, Toby. Where do people find us? Go on, do all the social media
we
things.
can do all the social media. So you can find us on our website, www.testhim.com, or on Instagram at testhim limited ltd.
LTD.
And come and say hi. If you see us sporting bobble hats or our race jackets in the paddock, do come and say hello to one of us. We're going to be at various events in motorsport and at the fertility show. Come and say hello. And don't be shy. We won't bite.
Yeah, and pop on and fill out the questionnaire if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, go on that portal.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent.
See you later.
Ciao.
Bye for now.